So this is a ShirKlalli taking place on Thursday evening. Oya li kof gimel kof oya li kof gimel Shvat Tovshin ein beis. That's a shir in Parsha Mishpatim. This is Shabbos Mavokim Odor. Alright, so the Parsha begins, we're referring to chapter 21, Posik Aleph. 21, Posik Aleph. Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tosim lifneihem. And these are literally the judgments or the halachas. And as he brings in the Targum, ve'ele dinayo, these are the dinim, literally, that you shall place in front of them in pashtas, meaning that you'll place it in front of the yidden. So the Parsha goes on to tell us a whole series of laws which are concerned with dinim mominus and other monetary laws and other laws connected with various aspects of Jewish life according to the Torah. And these are detailed laws and dinim, some of them which have place in reasoning and in seichel and understanding, some of them which don't so much. If you have a book like that, you're not supposed to read all. It's written, you have to pay attention to what we're talking about. Okay? Yeah. All right. So this is like a follow-up from Matan Torah. Previous Parsha was Matan Torah, and after Matan Torah, there was just a brief dialogue between Hashem and the Yidden and Moshe Rabbeinu, and then some of the dinim of the Mizbeach that was made in the base in the Mishkan in the desert, and then we come straight to Ve'ele HaMishpatim. So comes along Rashi. Rashi says Ve'ele HaMishpatim Kol Mokim Shenema Eile Posal Es HaRishonim. That every place where it's written the word Eile at the beginning of a parsha or a section, then that word Eile literally cuts off the original Pesukim. Posal. Now that doesn't mean it made them posal. What it means is there's a word Livsol. By Moshe Rabbeinu it's written Pesel Lecho Shnei Lukois Ovanim. Cut yourself, chop yourself off to stone tablets. So in the same way, the word posel here means the cut off or, as it were, severed connection with. So wherever we start a new parsha or section in the Torah, and we say Eila, this is what we're talking about now, that means it doesn't have any connection with the previous parsha. It's like a new Indian, and we say these and these are what we're going to now talk about. However, says Rashi, Vor Eila, where it's written with a Vav, however, then we face a situation where Eila would seem to be a new Indian, of a Vor Eila as a Vav. A Vav is a connecting letter. How do you call it? Vav HaMachaber. When I say Zev, Vor, Zev, I mean this and that. So the Vav tends to connect us with what there was before. So Rashi says, where it's written, Vor Eile Moisif El Rishonim. It doesn't cut off connection with what was there before, but it adds to and continues on from what was said in the Rishonim, meaning the earlier parsha. Ma HaRishonim Misinai, just like we see that the 10 commandments, they were directly from Sinai. Ma HaRishonim meaning the earlier parsha. All the dinim there were from Mount Sinai. It's written clearly that everybody heard the first two dibros, and Moshe Rabbeinu was the whole time speaking directly with Hashem. Af Eilu mi Sinai. Also these are from Sinai. Now what does Rashi want with that? I might have thought that these seem to be a whole series of laws that have been designed, as it were, for monetary disagreements and all types of other possibilities that might occur where a a person's shower will do damage, or where he might dig a hole in the ground and not realize that he's dug it in a public place, and somebody might get hurt, and all of these type of things. So therefore, says Rashi, you should realize that just like what was written in last week's Parsha was from Mount Sinai, meaning it was divinely given. Af Eile Misinai. These are also divinely given and divinely stated to Moshe Rabbeinu, just like the Aseret HaDivros. Even though they look to be much more sort of simple, maybe even rational, they tend to indicate what are the dinim al piter to all sorts of detailed situations. Nonetheless, you should realize that they're also from Mount Sinai, meaning they're also divinely given. Baloma, said Rashi, Nishmachol Parshas Dinim, LaParshas Mizbeach. That's in a general way. Rishonim meaning the Aseret HaDivros, which was a Parsha back. It's not the last thing we were talking about. It's in the latter part of the previous Parsha. But the immediate thing which we're parting from in the last Parsha was, like we said, about the Mizbeach, how you have to make the Mizbeach for the Mishkan. So therefore Rashi says, why is it that we connected this Parsha immediately with the Parsha of the Mizbeach? Well, that comes to tell us, Leima Lecha, Shetosim Sanhedrin Eitzel HaMikdosh. Well, that comes to teach us that when you will come into Eretz Yisrael and you'll build the Beis HaMikdash, which will be the continuation of the Mishkan, how it is in Eretz Yisrael, then you must sit the Sanhedrin, what they are the Beis Din, HaGodel, that they judge all the Mishpatim and all the things which are written in the Parsha. They will be the ones that decide them and dictate them. So you must make sure that will be near them, just like all the laws in the Torah are near the Mizbeach. So that means the Sanhedrin will have to be sat in the Beis HaMikdash, not far from the Mizbeach, meaning in the outer areas. It was in an area called the Chil in the Beis HaMikdash. It wasn't Mamish Kodesh, but it wasn't 1,000% Koil. It was like alongside the main building at the Beis HaMikdash. So Rashi says that your Sanhedrin must always sit right alongside where the Mizbeach is going to be in the Beis HaMikdash. Now that's a whole thing all of its own. And why did Rashi feel obliged to say that? And why did he connect that Davki with, it was already connected in a general way with the part, now he connects in a more specific way. That's a big discussion. That's not the point of the Shir. I want to go a little bit further now. And we see that Rashi says, in a further Rashi, that he says, Asher tosim lifneihem, that you must place these mishpatim. It's the third Rashi. Asher tosim lifneihem is one. Then there's the word lifneihem. Can you see that? Everybody got it? So Rashi says, lifneihem, you must place all these laws in front of them. Who is them? The Jewish people. Yeah, all the people that were there at Mount Sinai, all the people that were him. Says Rashi, V'loi lifnei oivdei alilim, that you must place it in front of Yidden, or not in front of Goyim. Oivdei alilim means those who serve Avodah Zarah, but that's a way of saying in front of Goyim in general. Oh, you're not allowed to go to a Goyish Bezdin. You must only go to a Yiddish Bezdin. V'afilu yodata bedin echad, and afilu, if you'll know in a certain din, shahem danim oisei bedina Yisrael, that you know that they're going to judge the same way, that the Goyim, according to their laws, will paskin the same way as what Yidden would have paskin. As in, what does it really matter where I go? So he says, Al taviehu barachoy shalhem. Don't bring it into their courts. Don't bring your judgment and your case with the other fellow into their courts. Shamevi dinei Yisrael lifnei aromim. That somebody who brings the law, the cases of Yidden in front of Aramim. Aramim is the name for the Goyim at that particular time in Eretz Yisrael, but it means Goyim. It's a way of saying Goyim. Machal es Hashem. He desecrates the Abish's name. Umiyaka Shem Hoelilim, and you, as it were, cause a certain honor to the names of idols, yeah, lahachshivom, and you give them a certain importance by going to their courts. Rashi brings a Rav and a posik to that, but what he means is if you go into their courts and let's say they serve who knows what idol or what may happen to be their main is if you go to their courts, it's like saying that, you know, in a way you're elevating and giving a certain honored name to their religion or to their whole way of understanding things. That's a chilul Hashem. Therefore you mustn't, under any circumstances, go in front of goyim. You must settle all dinim that you have, yeah, based in Yisrael. So we see that Rashi has told us two inyanim about these mishpatim. First of all, he told me that they're divinely inspired. Even though they look to be rational in some cases, as we'll soon see, maybe that's not so simple, but they're divinely inspired. And Zweitens is, he said you must under no circumstances ever take a din Yisrael in front of a goyish court. Therefore, it's a very serious matter to take somebody to a non-Jewish court. I don't know what happened with the Rebbe. The whole case of the Sforim was talking in front of a non-Jewish court. That was a different reason, because it's brought down that if you're scared and you're worried that the person you have with, he won't accept what the people say, what the Bezdin Paskin, then you're allowed to go to the Goyish courts. And that's a whole parsha. But the Rebbe knew what he was doing when he decided they have to go to the non-Jewish courts, and there are different reasons behind that, due to the fact that they didn't really know who they were, how he was going to react, this guy they were dealing with. So they felt that the only way was to get Medina of America to Paskin. That was really the only way we could ever foresee getting this for him back. Over here in general cases, when I say general, even specific cases, it's a very serious matter to go in front of a Goyish court. And therefore, even the courts over here, according to Torah here in Israel, the courts here in Israel, according to strict law of the Torah, are considered like non-Jewish courts. You shouldn't go in front of them. You should always go to a Bezdin, only when there's no other choice, and whatever may be the details of the case. And therefore the Rabbonim, the leading Rabbonim in Eretz Yisrael are very strict about that. They don't allow you to go to the courts here, because they're all based on Goyish laws. As you want, it's a huge hodgepodge over here, and it's well known the political aspects and the political protectia, as it's called, protection, all that sort of thing, interfere very deeply with all the courts over here in Israel. So for all sorts of reasons, it's not easy to go to them Beklal. Anyway, from that we see that there's an inyan that you mustn't go in front of their court. So I ask yourself the question on the part of the intelligent reader, if, as Rashi says, it was a case where they're only going to paskin the same as what Yidden did, is what's enough community? Why is it so special to go by it? What's it really matter? And we could even ask in a general way that if there was an intelligent goy and a goy, a chocham, that he could see and understand what people claim and counterclaim in a case of monetary cases, and didn't. Why couldn't he, discern also what's the din in this? But if we told him basically what are the yonim, how we would like them to be paskin, what's the problem with going to a goyish court? Because there were some times in history when there were certain cases where the goyim even backed up the Yidden, and they sucked in and urged the Yidden they should listen to their Bezdin. As Im Kain, why is it not a proper thing to go in front of goyim? These matters are totally in seichel and understanding, particularly as he calls them mishpatim. Now we have a klal that the word mishpat means a thing which ultimately can be understood in reasoning, in seichel. Ma'ashenki in a chok, when we call a law, al pi Torah, a chok, it means something that it doesn't make sense al pi seichel, and we wouldn't have ever dreamt of such a inyan had it not been that the Eibishter told us. That's called a chok. Over here he doesn't call them chokim, he calls them mishpatim. It's got a certain shaychus, according to the pasuk itself, with an inyan of reasoning. Why is it you can only go to a Yiddish court? So the answer, l'chera, leads us to some very interesting thoughts on the matter. But that is that it's written that when a Bezdin sits, that there's a pasuk in Tehillim, in Kapitel Pei Beis, I think it is, Pei Gimel, where it's written, Elokim Nitzov Ba'adas Keil. The Eibishter literally is standing in the congregation of Yidden. And the Gemara tells us that that's referring to a Bezdin. So that whenever a Bezdin sits, and whenever a Bezdin has to decide any matter in Torah, Kaviochel, the Eibishter's there with them. And the Eibishter is standing in that Bezdin. Even if it's three Dayonim that you might call relatively, in inverted commas, normal Dayonim that are sitting on the Bezdin, you have the presence of the Shekhinah is there in every Bezdin. How much more so in the bigger Bezdin called the Sanhedrin, which Rashi mentioned in his first Rashi, that that's like the central and Bezdin HaGodel, where all the very serious matters were decided. I won't go into all the differences as to which courts decided which. That's also a big chapter in Torah. The Eibusha is there with these people. So, come along certain people, and they say that if the Eibusha weren't there, then it could be these guys wouldn't be able to paskin properly up with Torah. It could be that they might have a slip up, or it could be they might end up, not getting the whole din correctly, even according to Torah. And it's only the Eibusha that guides them. Which means that when a Bezdin paskins, even a simple Bezdin of three Dayonim, which may be dealing with a monetary matter, is that's all according to the way that Hashem, being present in that Bezdin, visits the minds and the souls of those Dayonim and indicates them what they should do. But if they don't have that divine help, then it could be that they will make a mistake or trip, to use the expression which is often bought, and they will paskin not correctly, or they will make a mistake, kipshute, in their understanding. So, ask yourself the shaila, why is it that we need divine help? Once again, we come back to the same shaila. These things seem to have their laws and they make sense according to Seichel. Why do you need to have a divine inspiration on the part of the Bezdin? The Abish is actually there. Isaiah is brought in for him. That's the pshat. So we have to say, that we first of all have to understand these mishpatim, if we look at them, like I pointed out at the beginning of the class, these mishpatim seem to be all sorts of good moded things to guard order in society. People who do damage have to pay. If you sure did damage, you have to pay. If you sure died, if somebody else just sure got killed by your shore, or if somebody fell in a hole that you dug, or all sorts of things. Yeah, many halachas which seem to have to do with what you might call the good control of society. So in order to get a bit of a view of that, then there's a famous statement from the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe Rayatz, what he said that in Birchas Krishma, every day by davening, in the Bracha Ahava Soilom, then we say, V'nasata lanu, v'shtadutn, v'sein lanu b'beinu, chukei chayim. You have given us the laws of life. Chukei chayim. So the Frierdiker said, what does that mean, chukei chayim? So he said there's two ways you can understand. One is that the chayim brings the chok. Dainu, we have a society, and we have a lot of people all over, like it's written in Pirkei Avos, in second Perek of Pirkei Avos, it's written that you should daven for the peace of the government. You should daven for the, for the guys who are running. I don't know about over here so much, but by the goyim you should daven for the peace of the government, because ilo moira ishas riyehu, because if it weren't for the fact that one person has a fear of the authority of another person, then ishas riyehu chayim beloyoi, then one man will swallow the other man alive. It's written in Pirkei Avos. One will swallow the other one leviticate. In other words, people will come to literally eat up one another. So it's written in certain Meforshim that that's referring to the Chukim of the Goyim. That's referring to, even though there's a certain Pirush al Derech HaPnimis Yosef, about Pshat Inyan, that the Goyim, all the laws are by the Umas Ha'olam, by the peoples of the world, because the societies have created certain needs, and those needs demand certain laws to guard a certain order in that. And that's proper Opitur. It's one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, that they should control their lives properly. The life creates those laws, and the necessities of a huge society create a larger body of law. This boy Gedelsky, I knew his father very well, Oliver Sholem. He was a big lawyer in South Africa, very successful but very remarkable person, a very remarkable lawyer. And he had a room where he used to study his cases, and it was full of these books, these law books, and all the Goyish laws are books and books full, because there's so many thousands of people, so many millions of people in a country, and so many different things can come up that you've got to keep up with all that they said once upon a time, and they said here, and they said there. Because the situations create the laws. So the Frierdiker Rebbe, by Yidden, it's not like that. By Yidden, the laws create life. In other words, that if you guard the laws of the Torah, you make better life. Not that the life creates the laws, but the laws bring you more life. The more you look after the Torah and its halachas, the more you gain in life, and the more that makes a better country, which means that the laws of the Torah are not like the laws of the rest of the world. The laws of the Torah are really, the Shloah Kodesh brings down, that the Torah is not talking betachtoinim and being marames to elyonim. The Torah is not talking down here in this world and just throwing a remez to the olam elyonim and throwing a remez to the higher worlds. But the Torah is talking in the higher worlds and is throwing a remez to the lower world, meaning that our world is only just like a remez to all the inyonim how they are l'mayla. And they're the ikah, the way it is in Elikus, those are the ikah, and that's the whole purpose of learning Chassidus. What Chassidus is Pnimius HaTorah, and Pnimius HaTorah teaches us all the inyonim. What do we need to know? All the ilmas Atzilas and Bria and Yitzhak. What is that in? Because that's the real emes of Matzia. And down here it's just like a remez, it's just like an indication of how things really are l'mayla. As far as Lefizeh, all the laws mentioned here have all got a very high shoresh l'mayla in yonim of Elikus, and they just come down through a Yerid of the Torah Lamata. They come down in certain forms and certain inyonim how they are here in the Bezdin. Oh, but really everything's got its shoresh and everything is in Elikus l'mayla. And therefore the dinim of the Torah are very holy there, and it's very, very impossible to know how to be mechavin the dinei HaTorah be'emes, and how to apply the halachas of the Torah properly to every situation, because they're really tremendously high and divine inyonim. And therefore you need a divine guidance, otherwise who knows what you might paskin, and you might paskin in a way that wasn't proper according to the Torah. So that's why we need a divine inspiration that has to be there b'shas ma'aseh, has to be the presence of the Shekhinah in the Beis Din. How much more so as the Beis Din gets bigger in size, then a greater presence, as it were, until in the Sanhedrin, it was right alongside the Beis HaMikdash, v'shochanti b'seichom, or that's where the Eibishter dwelled permanently, Ba'idin, right alongside it, that's where the Sanhedrin was. So, that leads us to a very interesting further development in this whole picture, that the Dayanim need the Shekhinah in order to guide them to apply the laws of the Torah, which are so high, and which they create life to certain situations. And that's based on a Gemara in the Sector Sanhedrin. What the Gemara brings there on Daf Zayin, Amud Aleph, the Gemara brings there a certain inyan we find in several places in the whole Shas. We find it, and that is that the Gemara tells things which are common statements by people. The people, not just meaning, push mention, what you might call intelligent people, come up with a certain proverb or a certain klal, and then the Gemara shows that that's really got a basis in Kedusha, and we can find a posik or we can find another in Torah which backs that up. So the Gemara says over there that there was a man who used to be always walking and saying, exactly where he was going, it's not written, but he would always say a saying, and it became, as it were, picked up by other people, and it was how do you call it, a saying in society at that time. And what did he say? He said that if you go to a Beis Din and you have a case with another person, and he claims that the cloak you're wearing belongs to him, and you say that the cloak you're wearing is yours, and you lose the case. Let's say he brings adium and you don't have adium. And so the adium, well, let's say he tined at a certain time and you didn't know that he was going to tine that. Or all sorts of things that affect, that the Beis Din's got its rules according to the Torah, that's the Paskin. So he says that if the Beis Din took away from you your posh garment and gave it to somebody else, then you should walk out of the Beis Din singing and you should be happy. Why should you be happy? You know and you believe in your soul that that's not true. You believe, and even though it may really be that is his beged, but if the Beis Din paskin, then it's a simon that must be right. So it comes along Rashi over there in the Gemara. Rashi, he believes that it's not right, and he knows, according to all the situations, that it really is. Doesn't mean it's right. How come it's right? So Rashi, that maybe in a certain time he stole from this man or from his family. A certain time in history, or he took some money out of this man or his family, without realizing it. So like he did. And therefore there had to come a whole thing, a whole din Torah had to come up in front of the Beis Din, and they had to paskin. Maybe not rightly according to the Matthias, how it is now. How it is now could be that he's right, that it really is his cloak. The Beis Din had aiding from the other man. They had witnesses. From the other, they have to paskin according to the Torah that belongs to him. Are they wrong? No, they're not wrong, says Rashi. Because what's happening is that the Eibush is paying back what he owed anyway below to this person. It's just that he's forgotten all about it and he doesn't realize. And therefore, whatever a Beis Din paskins, you have to go out of the Beis Din singing. You have to be happy, because even if they paskin what you believe not to be the case, and it could be you're right, it could be that really is your code. Yet not unless it end up by the other guy, LP didn't turn it into Beis Din, because really you owe him that sum of money even though you don't realize it. So come along certain people and they take that even further. And that's on the basis that in the Zohar HaKodesh, right at the very beginning of this week's parsha, Eile HaMishpatim Asher Tosim Lifneihem, comes along the Zohar HaKodesh, it's Omar Rabbi Shimon, and he brings the Targum, Ve'ilin Dinayo. These are the judgments and the laws. That literally didn't mean something sharp. So he says that the whole first part of this parsha, says Rabbi Shimon, about the Eved Ivri and all those things, is all referring to the halacha or the dinim of Gilgal. This is one of the places where the Zohar HaKadosh mentions the din of Gilgal. Now, what does Gilgal mean? It means, in simple terms, reincarnation. That you were here at a previous time, and you pass away, and then your neshama comes back in a different guf for different reasons. It could be that you came back because of a sin that you did. It could be you didn't finish all the halachas of the Torah that we have to finish off. You missed out on a certain mitzvah that we got to be mashlim, or you had to achieve something, and so you came back again. And that's called the din of Gilgal. And so bringt V'yaister Rabbi Shimon that the Eila HaMishpatim is referring to the judgments milmaila about who's going to have to come to Gilgal and who not. Just by the way, there's a sikha from the Rebbe in the latter year, Toshin on Aleph or Toshin on Beis, where the Rebbe says that the Gilgulim have already, you know about that? The Gilgulim have already completed, yeah. The Rebbe said we're holding so close to Moshiach, it's not shaykh anymore Gilgulim, because everybody's moving into Chaim Nitzchim. There's no necessity for Gilgulim. But anyway, that's another issue. It says the Zohar HaKadosh that there's such a thing as Gilgal, and all these early halachas here are all different ways of telling me about the dinim of necessity of coming back into the world. So I come along certain people and they say that it could be. Yeah, but I wanted it to be quick, okay? I don't want them messing around or goofing around or making telephones or talking or anything. You go and you come back, all right? They say that there could be a case in Bezdin where the Bezdin paskin a certain way, and once again the person will think it's not fair. He will paskin, he will think that I don't really owe this guy. I know the truth is, but I just couldn't prove it. And the other guy had witness. Maybe he had witnesses that told Sheker. But if I have two witnesses, but I can examine them and they prove to be kosher, and what they say seems to be making sense, I'll be din Torah. I have to be makabel that edus. I can't do otherwise. Now that's another thing. We'll still talk about in a second the din of edus. And whether he had edus, for example, and let's say that the guy we're talking about didn't have edus, so he lost the case, even though he knows, yeah, like the case we just spoke about in Sanhedrin. So certain Sfarim will say that it could be that the reason why this guy had to pay up, yeah, and it looks as if this happened here, something which is not proper, is because in a previous Gilgal, this person had done something to that person, and now he's got to pay him back. And there it came through the, how do you call it, the levush of a certain case of disagreement about money, and therefore the President Paskin that he has to pay because he owed him in a previous Gilgal, in an earlier incarnation when he was in the world. He owed him, and now he's got to pay that in order that he should be able to free himself from the whole coming back into Gilgal. Because the Meforshei Zohar HaKadosh bring down over there that the Indian of a Gilgal is a big tsar for the nefesh. It's a very great suffering for the nefesh to have to come back into Gilgal. Therefore, once he's paid that money, it could be he'll stop having to come back all the time into Gilgal. And therefore, that's a proof that the Dayonim never paskin anything which is not alpi shuras hadin, either b'zeh ha'gilgal or b'gilgal koida. And that's what we're saying, that Elokim nito badas keil, that the Eibishter is sitting in the Bezdin with the Dayonim, and they will never do anything that's not proper, because it's divinely inspired. It might look to be not proper. It might look as if, we really know that this guy's got false witness, or we know, meaning the two people between them know, the Bezdin tried the witnesses according to the laws of the Torah. That's it. So really it's not an incorrect judgment, because in a Gilgal HaKoidim, it was a it was a necessity for him to pay back money. And that's the connection between the Inyan of Gilgul and the beginning of the Parsha, and what happens with the whole concept of Mishpatim. What it follows, Lafisa, that nothing happens in the Bezdin Stam. If there's a mistake, then the Bezdin, as it were, had to make that mistake. It's an Inyan Milmaila that they had to make that mistake, and you have to be like the Gemara says in Sunday, and you have to be happy, because maybe you don't even realize. Not everybody knows what he was in a previous school. It's a very big Inyan, a very big school to know that. I don't know if we have to go into that, but you don't really know. So you have to be happy because it could be in a previous Gilgul. So on that basis, some people go. I mean, it's becoming quite an interesting. As the old saying in English says, the plot thickens. You know, the thing is getting thicker. So then we go a bit further, and we're going to go over now to chapter 23. I just want to show you a pasuk in chapter 23, pasuk of Perik of Gimel, pasuk Zion, pasuk Zion. Chapter 23, verse 7. Midvar sheker tirchok, you must keep distant from a false matter. Dvar sheker tirchok. You must, the word tirchok was in Rosh Rachok, you have to make yourself very distant from a false matter. V'noki v'tzadik al taroig. Somebody who is a clean person or a righteous person, you mustn't kill him, chas v'sholem. Ki, because loy atzdik rosha. I will not make righteous an evil man. So if you, pashtus it means, if you kill off, innocent people, then you become a Rasha, and I won't rectify you one way or another. You'll get your punishment. So it comes along Rashi. Rashi tells us an interesting thing. What does it mean? V'noki v'tzadik al taroig. Rashi says, what about a case of a person, the Bezdin of Paskin? This means that one of the Bezdin Agodls, a Paskin that he's Chayav Misa. Let's say he was in a case where he was charged, a charge that he did an Avera which he can be killed for. V'oma echod, and somebody said to the Bezdin when he was going out already, after they'd already Paskin that he's Chayav, and he's going out to be put to death. Yeshli luma delov schus. Somebody said, I can maybe bring a proof that he's good. Luma delov schus. I can find something to show maybe he's not guilty. Shemachzirin, I say, that you take him back, and you put him into the into the Bezdin, and we hear what the guy has got to say. Talmud Lema v'noki al taroig. You shouldn't kill somebody who is clean. Even though he's not a tzaddik, shaloi needs dak b'bezdin, because he wasn't proved in Bezdin to be a tzaddik. On the contrary, he was proved in Bezdin to be chayav. He was proved that he was chayav. Mikol mokim noki hu midin misa. Nonetheless, the fact that somebody says that maybe I know a factor in this matter which will prove him innocent, that means he's still naki. He's not 100%. Remember that we have to bring him back. Shara yesh lecha schus. Yeah. Uminayin leyetzim mi Bezdin zakai. But what about somebody who goes out of the Bezdin and he's already been proved innocent? Ve'omer echad yesh li lilmed alav choiva. And somebody said, oh, I know something about him that I can prove him guilty. Yeah, she'ein machzirin. Then we don't take him back. Yeah, the Bezdin. Talmud Lema v'tzadik al taroig, because it's written, somebody who's a tzaddik, you must not kill him. V'zeh tzadiku shenitztadik b'bezdin. He's been proved, that he's a righteous man. The Bezdin said he's innocent. As if he's innocent, we can't listen to anybody who wants to say, otherwise you don't take him back into the Bezdin. In other words, in a case where he's been proved chayo, then you have to take him back. If somebody says they can prove he's okay. Or where he's been proved innocent, then you can't take him back into Bezdin if somebody says he knows something not good about him. So, come along certain people and I say, what's the connection? The pasuk starts off and it says, you have how do you call it, bidvar sheker tirchok, you must go away from him. A thing of sheker, and then it brings me this halacha here, what's the connection one with the other? And the second thing is, what's this Indian that once somebody's been proved in Bezdin that he's zakai, that's it, you can't ever take him back. And here, I mean, maybe the other guy's got an iron proof that he's, how do we know? But in a case where he's been proved guilty, then we do listen to the new Taina. So once again, l'chera, it's the same basic principle, that since the Eibishter dwells in the Bezdin, then l'chera, the Bezdin can't paskin wrongly. And let's take the case of, he's already been proved zakai. He's already been proved in the second case. He's been proved zakai. And somebody now comes along and wants to learn on him schools, we say, no, since the Bezdin, paskin, that he's zakai, then that means that in this particular inyan, he must be, how do you call this, the Bezdin wouldn't have possibly paskin that he's zakai if he wasn't really zakai. L'chera, the Bezdin wouldn't have paskin without Eidas, and they had all these ways that he did kill this guy, and that's why they're taking him out to put him to death. So what's the deal? So here we move into a very fascinating field, that there's a Gemara in Masechta Chulin, but the Gemara says that al pitorah we have to go always according to the majority. Well, that's in this week's parsha, by the way. You probably met up with that. There's a din for achari rabim lahati. You must always go according to the majority. So the Gemara Masechta Chulin looks for a proof. Yeah, how do we know? The top pasuk says here to go according to the majority. But what is the basis of saying that? What is the time? Why did the Torah pasuk must always go to the majority? So the Gemara brings a raya from a murderer. What's it? A murderer. The Gemara brings a raya that how do we know, for example, that the guy that he killed wasn't a person that's called a treifo? You know what a treifo is? A treifo is somebody that he's got something wrong with his, that he's got a very serious inner disease. Then in a few months he's going to die. So if you killed him and he's anyway about to die, then you're not chayav misa. You're not supposed to do such a thing. It's a very serious affair, but you're not chayav misa. So how do we know that maybe the guy that died had some disease? We don't know. I don't know. Also, how do we know that the Eidim that they came, that they're who knows that they're not once again, like we said before, maybe they're lying. How do we know that he himself is not something wrong with him and he's like a dying? If he's a treifo anyway, he's anyway going to die, then the Bezdin doesn't put him to death. So how do we know that? The Bezdin just looks at people, it doesn't know what's really going on. Says the Gemara, and it's a sign that we go in the Torah always according to Rav. The people that we see in front of us, we just assume they're normal people. And if we see Eidim, we just have to, and we've tested them according to the laws of the Torah, we've asked them questions and we've tested them, then we just have to assume that they're okay. And we just have to assume that they're kosher. How do you know? So that's a sign that we go according to the majority. The majority of people are not like that. And the majority of people don't have other problems or things of that nature. So therefore, says the Gemara, if the Bezdin paskin that this guy is Zakai, that he's innocent, that even though, it could be we had, a raya. Somebody said, oh no, I've got now a raya, that we don't listen to that raya because since the Bezdin Paskin, it's a sign that there must be some way that he's potter. It's just that we don't know. Maybe the person he killed was a traitor. Maybe the Adim were also not mitzadei zatan. They weren't legal, but it wasn't mishkali. In other words, that the reason the Bezdin Paskin that he is Zakai, he's innocent, because really in the emes, which is hidden from our eyes, he really is that way. How are you supposed to know? That's the Shechina is in the Bezdin. Remember, the Dayonim, they see what the emes is, with divine inspiration, they pass it what the emes is. And therefore, we don't listen to what this guy says, because it's not going to make any difference. But Poyel, this person is, since the Bezdin Paskin, that he's Zakai, then he's Zakai. So it comes along the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, and the Orach Chaim HaKodesh asks a very obvious question. If that's the case by somebody who is, Zakai, then what about the other case? Somebody who's Chayav, we say we do go back. We do take him back. If somebody's Chayav, we do take him back into the Bezdin. So if I say that the Bezdin never has any mistakes, then they paskin that he's Chayav, as he's Chayav. What are you going to listen to now? Something else that's not going to help. The Bezdin already paskin that he's Chayav. It's up to Orach Chaim HaKodesh that there's a klal that the Eibishter never goes back from Toiv. From Toiv he never goes back. Or from Ra, like we find by Anovi who makes Nevuah Toiv, then he's got different halachas than Anovi who made a Nevuah Ra. We won't go into all the details now. And the reason is that we find that it's written in Pasha Kisisa when the Yidden sinned, but a Chet Egel, that Moshe Rabbeinu begged for them, and it's written that the Eibishter is a nicham al hora, that the Eibishter can go back and change his mind about something which was evil. He can change his mind. Over something which was good, the Eibishter never changes his mind. Amamera yesh lahavi al zeh kama v'kama rayas. Therefore, says the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, where this guy's been proved chayov, and somebody says that they got a knowledge that he's really Zakai, that we do take him back into the Bezdin. Even though, for sure, the Bezdin, under the circumstances, as Ad Khan, paskin correctly, but nonetheless a possibility that maybe the Eibishter will have Rahmanas on this guy. Maybe, once again, Mitadei Ze'in, it was Begilgal HaKoyim, and that's the in of an Eila Mishpatim, Eila Inyan HaGilgal, maybe, or in some other reason, there's a reason why there could be that the Eibishter will listen to that, because to be Mavatal Ra, the Eibishter is always prepared. Of a Lateiv, he's not. As I am for the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. It comes to us that Im Kain, it looks strange that the Eibishter is giving an okay to a thing which was Im Kain, it was really false. If it's going to be proved that can be the case, and you're not allowed. The Gemara says in Masechta Ksubas, you're not allowed to sign, or let's say that we don't know about the signatures on a star, if they're really the signatures of the people whose names they are. So it's written that you bring in Adim, and they give witness, and then the Bezdin puts its signature on the star. That's a kosher star. If witnesses say that these are the ksav yad of the people who sign. So it's written that what about if two or one of the Dayanim knows anyway, and he doesn't need to be told. He knows intimately that that's the ksav yad of one of the people, and then we only bring in, or let's say two of them. Then you got a majority of the Dayanim, and it's only for the third Dayan that we need to give Eidos that he should know. Then l'chayra, says the Gemara, the Bezdin can already sign, and then get the Eidim to come in and give Eidos on the third one. So the Gemara says no, that the Bezdin is not allowed to sign until it knows 100% sure about from the Eidim, but I get to otherwise it looks like a bit harchi-pachi, that the Bezdin signing before it has final information beneged to the so Kaviochel, if the Eibishter says that we can take back this person into business and we can now hear a limud schut, somebody will maybe say something innocent about him, that's like as if it's like the Eibishter putting his signature Kaviochel on something that wasn't right. The business already paskin. And that's it. The Hashem Elokim Nitzol Ba'adas Keil. The Shechina is there. And that's the Chaim HaKodesh, a gewaldige Yesod. And he said that the Eibishter is prepared even for that, even though it looks a little bit strange, that Ra shouldn't be the ultimate. He's always prepared to go back from Ra, but not from Toy. And therefore, if you bring him out Zakai, and how do we personally with Zakai? We had witnesses and everything on the part of this new person that wants to say he's probably got witnesses and everything. Nonetheless, we say since the Bezkin Paskin, then B'Shamayim Kachet. That's the way it is in Himmel, and that's the way it remains. That this guy is for sure, he's Zakai. But remember, we see here a most amazing Indian that all of these things which are mishpatim, it doesn't look to be so simple. There's something very, very deep. Mitzada Elakus, like the Shloah Kodesh says, no Maila Lamata, that the Eibishter talks in the upper world and looks into the lower world. That's the way the business really functioning. How can that function? Only through divine inspiration. And therefore, I just want to quote you Ainian, since we're running out of time a little bit. I want to quote you Ainian. It's brought down in the Hakdoma from the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital to the Sefer Eitz Chaim. Now, we told you a few times what the Sefer Eitz Chaim, we met it in Tanya. That's the big source work of the Kisvei Arizal. It's written by the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital. Everything that he heard from the Arizal, when they get to all these Stalshchas, Oinamas, and all the Madregas, and all the that's the Sefer Eitz Chaim. So he writes a famous Hakdoma, the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital, a famous, how do you call it, introduction. A Hakdoma means introduction to the Eitz Chaim. And he says over there, he warns people that you must be, to learn Kabbalah, you have to have a lot of readiness, you have to be pure, and you have to be have a lot of tahara, and you have a lot of experience, and you can't just learn Kabbalah any old way. A whole series of inyanim. And then he brings down a very interesting thing. And he says that if you're going to learn Kabbalah and you're going to go into the secrets of the Torah, you have to have a certain condition. And one of those is that if you meet up with something, which you almost certainly will, you'll meet up with something which you don't quite understand, and it doesn't seem to make sense to you at the moment, that you will say, oh, the reason why I don't understand that, because I am not Peseda, and I don't have enough knowledge of Torah, that I should, if I'll have more knowledge of Torah, and I'll be more advanced in my service of Hashem, and I'll be a better person, then I'll understand it. If you do it that way, then you can study Kabbalah. But if you're likely to study Kabbalah and meet up with something you don't understand, and then you'll say, oh, well, since I don't understand it, maybe this is not right, and you might have a suffix in your mind go through, but even for a few minutes, so the Rabbeinu Chaim will tell you shouldn't learn altogether. You shouldn't learn the Kabbalah. And Mel Kunta is that the whole request of learning, the whole requisition of learning Kabbalah is that you have to be so botil to Elokus that you have to know that if there'll be something I don't understand, that's my problem. It's not the problem of the Torah. It's my problem that I'm not yet perfect enough that Hashem should grant me to understand that matter. Particularly in things of Kabbalah, which are very, very high, and they're all Inyanim Elokim, B'chulu. And he said, that's what you have to do. So I just want to tell you now a little story. When I first started working in the yeshiva, Mamish way back in Toshin Koftes, a matter of fact, I started working in the yeshiva in Toshin Kofches. But this was occurred about a few months later. We were learning Direk Mitzvah Secha. And then I had a couple of Brocken that were really bright guys. They were from America, and they're guys who had finished PhDs, and they were really into things. They'd finished degrees, and they'd done tshuva because of the 6-Day War. They'd come over to find out what was going on over here, and they decided they wanted to really get into Yiddishkeit. That's how they came to this year. I even know the name of the one I'm talking about. And we were learning Derech Mitzvah Secha, and in one of the Maimorim there, Derech Mitzvah Secha, the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, brings down a certain Inyan, but maybe present-day science doesn't quite, when I say present-day science, there's no really present-day science, because science is always advancing, it's always changing, so you can't really say present-day science. But at that particular time, let's say, they would have maybe held differently. So I had one guy that came over to me and he said, what's this? According to physics, it doesn't sort of come out that way. So I had a whole discussion with him. I tried to show him that, according to Elikus, the Indian is different, and we can't know everything in Elikus just from our limited knowledge, and you can't judge according to secular rules. And I was making a whole pilpul for him. So in the meantime, we used to learn over in the Zal over there, where the entrance to the kitchen is, where you go through in order to get into the eating room. Over here, there's a place you walk through. But that was our Zal. That was where we used to learn. Well, it was the Zal of the whole yeshiva. At that time it was the Zal. Now you got the Zal upstairs, but that used to be the Zal of the whole yeshiva. So people used to sit pretty close one to the other. So this other guy, that he was a PhD, this guy, he was sitting and he heard me discussing this whole thing with this guy. So he came over and he said, Robert Gaffney, do you mind if I interrupt for a minute? I want to tell him something. I said, fine, well, let's hear what you have to say. So he said, I also noticed. He said, I also learned a lot of what he learned. And he said, I also noticed it's not according to certain principles. He said, I said to myself, no, Avram, he said, the problem with you is that you don't know very much in Elikus at all. You don't know very much about the Eibishter. You don't know very much about Pnimis HaTorah. You don't know very much about Torah B'Klal. When you will know everything that Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek knew, and he said kach, then I'll be able to judge. If my standard of knowledge in Torah will be like him, then I'll be able to know. And maybe there's some Inyan in Torah and Pavadim Pnimis HaTorah, why it's really taka like that. And who knows, in a few years, science will advance and it'll change it, and that's taka the way we'll hold. But he said, the problem is mine, it's not the problem of Chassidus. And when this other guy heard that, he just backed off and he said, Robert Gaffney, I take back all my shadows. And this person became a very Chassidish young man. And I said to one of the other Rosh Yeshivas in Lazal, about half an hour later, he came over and spoke to him for a minute. So I winked at this guy given that terrace. I said, he's going to be a Chassidish yid. Old story. He's a very amazing person. Anyway, that's what he said. And that's exactly what the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital says. If there's something doesn't make sense to you, Befrat in Pnimis HaTorah or in Kabbalah, that's because you are not yet perfect. And when you don't have enough knowledge yet to know. And Melavi Baal, that you don't have enough knowledge to know, well, that's why it doesn't make any sense to you. So keep quiet. Wait and learn further. But if you're the sort of person who's likely to ask a question and then a suffix will fall into your mind, a doubt, because it doesn't make sense according to what you know, therefore you doubt as to it, then you shouldn't learn Kabbalah. As it is written in the Hakdama of the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital to the Sefer Eitz Chaim. Akaponim, Lafizeh, we're moving to don't worry, we're finishing in a few minutes. We're moving now to a very interesting klal. Now we understand why Rashi said that Ma Eile Sinai, Ma the Aseres HaDibros were given from Sinai. Af Eile, there are also these Mishpatim are from Sinai. Where's your Rashi Matam? But even Pnimi Kitat Yisa, Rashi means for that reason that all these things that apart from the fact that the emes is that there are a lot of the so-called dinim of the dinaya, like the oncalists call them, that don't make sense al pi seichel anyway. There's quite a few. Even when we were talking about witnesses, eidim. Almost by Goyim, if they have an aid, it doesn't matter who he is, he can be an aid. But by Yidden, if he's a korev or if he's a korev to the person, then he can't be an aid. If he's for some other reason possible, there can be different reasons why he might be possible. He also can't give aids. And let's say 2 aidim come or 3 aidim come, and you find one of them who's korev or possible, then the whole aidis becomes possible. The Goyim don't understand why that should be the case. And there's many, many cases where we see that all these inyanim are really very profound, apart from all the reasons that we've given. Anyway, it comes along, Rashi's telling us that just like that's Misinai, and even though the Aseres HaDibros look to be very simple things, they're not. They're Mamish Elikus, and they were given from the Avish, and everybody heard they were given. The same, all these Mishpatim, which seem to be Torah and people working out, all sorts of times, and the Bezdin has to decide. He said they decide Misinai. It's like that every Bezdin is a new Sinai. It's like a small Sinai. It's all coming from the Eibishter. And even where they appear to have had a mistake, and maybe they did, they didn't really. They had a mistake, but that was meant because of a previous Gilgal or who knows what or why. It all had to be that way. And the Bezdin doesn't paskin anything. Any Bezdin doesn't paskin anything. And well, that's why Rashi said, that there's nothing in Torah, there's no pshat or prat in Torah which is not a chok. We made a difference earlier in the class between a chok and a mishpat. We said a chok is something that you just have to take home the Kabbalah soil, and a mishpat is something you can understand. So the truth of the matter is that really the mishpatim are also chokim. And ultimately, you have to relate to the things that are all written in what seem to make seichel to sense. Well, they seem to add up according to certain rules. You have to relate to them, and the Bezdin has to relate to them because they are really a chok. They don't really have any basis in normal seichel. And therefore, there's a lashon which in Parsha B'Shalach, not last week's Parsha, the one before, that when the first time they had the bitter water, and they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, how are we going to drink this water? It's bitter. And Moshe Rabbeinu threw a piece of wood in and it turned sweet, you remember? And it's written, Som loy choik u'mishpat, v'shom nisohu. Well, that was the place where the Eivishter taught them choik u'mishpat, and that's where they tried Hashem. So choik u'mishpat, it means that the Eivishter taught them things which don't make any seichel, and things which do add up in seichel. So learn certain meforshim. No, that's not the pshat. That choik u'mishpat. First of all, he mentions chok, and then he mentions mishpat. That first you have to know anything on the Eibush, and anything which is al pi Torah is choik. It's mishpat. It's only mishpat if you know that it's choik. If you don't hold it to be divine and beyond our ability to really know, then it's not mishpat b'klal. And that's why Rashi paskins that you can't make a bezdin in front of you can't take a bezdin out of goyim. You can't take even where they're going to paskin according to the din of Yisrael. You can't go in front of the goyim because the goyim don't have that Indian of Hashua Zashchina. The Shechina won't be there. As if the Shechina was not going to be there, even though they will paskin according to what they think will be seichel, but it doesn't make it. And they think it's what Yidden will paskin, but maybe the Bezdin would have paskin otherwise. For all the reasons we said that, there's all sorts of very, very deep inyanim going here behind the scenes, and maybe the Bezdin would have paskin completely differently. And you must only go to Yidden, and therefore Rashi says if you don't go to Yidden, Hashem, and then you give the goyim power, and you elevate their religion into and you give it koyach v'chulu v'chulu. It comes out that everything, even things which look to be mishpatim, their basis and their inners, that they're completely lamayla me'ata. And I say this with all the mitzvahs. We have to keep all the mitzvahs which are called mishpatim, not because they're mishpatim, and not because they add up in seichel. The way they're carried out by the Bezdin, they don't really add up in seichel anyway. And the whole in is that you have to be devoted to any mitzvah in the Torah, without the fact that it's a chok. It's only from the Eibusha, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And Mamela the same with them, and therefore, Eilim Misinai, Af Eilim Misinai, it's all It's all in even that doesn't necessarily add up according to Seichel Enushi. Amamera Nimtzul of his air that we've got to go, how do you call it? L'mayla mitam v'das. We have to know that the yesod of all the Torah is Kabbalah Se'el Malchus Shemayim, even in things which seem to make sense according to reason. I won't go into everything has to be Kabbalah Se'el. The same thing benegeh to an emes a Rebbe and an emes a Tzaddik and an emes a Manhig Hadoya. Tzaddikim doimim l'boirom. As they brings the Midrash, that Tzaddikim are like the Eibishter. You have to realize that a Rebbe is like a huge bezdin. He's got a certain, hashras, hashchina, that other people are not taken to. And therefore he says and he guides the generation according to what is choik. You have to be makabel that with Kabbalah. The less questions you ask, the better for yourself and for everybody. Because if you start asking questions, you might cool yourself off, and chas v'sholom, you might cool off other people as well. And therefore when the Rebbe says that the whole inyan is only Moshiach now, that is the whole inyan. And we can see the world's going crazy. And they think they're fixing up with, for example, this Iranian guy, everything. I traveled last night in a car with I tell you, I went to another chassan in Bnei Brak. After the chassan, I took a taxi home with my Rebbetzin. And the taxi driver was all fakok that this Iranian Meshuganim, he'd been making threats again of him. And he said, Hu Haman. He said, Hu Haman Amiti, but Kamosha Haman Yipol, Nafal Gamu Yipol. And he was very, very strong in his amun, and he said, we just have to believe, we have to know. He said, Anachnu tzrichim rak lekabel et haTorah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu lasot ma she'anachnu yochalim v'hu yipol. So I thought to myself, I'd missed 2 taxis before. I'd made like that, and 2 taxis hadn't stopped. And then he stopped. There's a sign that nothing happened to Stam. The fact that we got into that taxi, we had to hear those words from him. We had to hear from him. Yeah, and that's exactly what the Rebbe said. That's exactly what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe says, the Ike is Elokus, it's all a chok. It doesn't make any sense. Over Mashiach now. Mashiach is coming. Those are the yesod from everything. And my mother, if you want to be bound up and you want to really know where you're going, then you have to listen to the Bezdin. You have to listen to the Rebbe. And you have to have a chayas of Mashiach. You have to know that every minute goes past and Mashiach doesn't arrive. How do they say in the modern Hebrew? Chaval al hazman. Amen. Kein Yerotzen. Good. Okay, guys.